Hey, thanks for dropping by. What you're watching right now is a collection of helpful videos from my beginner guitar YouTube channel. If you want more, there are links down below. Thanks for watching. Happy strumming. So let's skip the frustration of learning the guitar. And in this daily series of videos, I'm breaking down some of the most common beginner guitar chords. And today I'm going to break down the C major chord. I'm going to show you the finger placement, give you a basic strumming pattern, and I'm going to show you an alternative as well to make it even easier. So the C major chord uses 3 fingers. We've got the first finger, the second finger, and the third finger. And we've got the diagram here as well to make it easier for you. So the first finger goes on the first fret of the B string. So this is the B string, also known as the second string. And frets are the metal bars that go across the strings. The second finger skips the third string and goes on to the fourth string, the D string, at the second fret. Now the third finger, now we're going to be stretching a little bit more. The third finger goes on the third fret of the A string, the fifth string. And with these here, all of your fingers are going to be pretty close to the frets. Now, especially the first and the second finger. Now, I've got pretty short fingers. Now, for me, when I play the C chord, my third finger isn't exactly like it is on the diagram here. It's just, there's a little bit of a gap between the fret and the finger, but it's still ringing out. So if you've got a little bit of a gap as well, don't worry, just make sure that the string is still ringing out. Now the thing about this chord here, as I mentioned, that your second finger is skipping over the third string. Now one thing that happened to me when I started out playing was this finger here, this second finger, would often be touching that third string and would give me this horrible buzzing sound. So when you've got a finger that is close to an open string, and an open string is a string that you're not playing, when it's close to an open string, you want to make sure that your finger is arched nicely so that, yeah, it's not touching the string. And of course the same will apply as well to the third finger, because you also want to make sure that this finger is not touching this string. So your third finger on the fifth string is not touching the fourth string. But I always found I had more problems when there was an open string next to, for example, like this one here. Here's the open string. It's next to the D string, which I'm playing, which I'm fretting. So that's something you want to watch out for. Now this is a 5-string chord, so you're playing just the top 5 strings. So you're playing the 5th string, the 4th string, 3rd string, 2nd string, and 1st string. All right. So remember the order of the string numbering is this thinnest string is the 1st string, this is the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and this low E string. And if you look at the diagram, you'll see that there is an X above the 6th string. And what that means is don't play that string. And that's when your thumb gets used and you're going to press, well, not press, you're going to lightly touch the low E string to dampen that sound, to dampen that string. And you will have this sound here. It's a nice sound, it's clear, it's bright, it's a major chord. C major is one of those bright chords. And to strum it, all you need to do, keeping it simple again, very simple, use down strums. Now if you're using a plectrum, you will just hold the plectrum and do that. Now I'm just using my thumb. This is how I started back in the day, back in 1986. And I'm just doing this. Now I can hit the 6th, the low E string. I can hit that string because it's dampened and it's not giving me any unnecessary sounds. Or you can use your first finger and you're kind of just using the nail to strike the strings, and it gives a completely different sound, as you can hear, compared to the thumb. But whichever way you're strumming the chord, the one thing you want to make sure is that you are keeping the time, keeping the rhythm even. So you don't want to be speeding up and you don't want to be slowing down. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Keeping it nice and even. Now I mentioned earlier that when you put this chord on, the first, second, and then you put that third finger on, it can be a bit of a stretch. Now when I started, the first way that I learned this chord was to only play top 4 strings. So I'm using the first finger and the second finger only, but I'm not playing the 5th string or the 6th string. So I'm using my thumb again to kind of dampen the 6th string and the 5th string, because we don't want this sound. So we just want the top 4 strings. And you could do it like this if it's easier for you. You do really need a little bit more control over this hand here, your strumming hand, in order to make sure that you're not playing these 2 other strings here. So this is why I think I found it a lot easier when I started out using just my thumb, because I had a bit more control. And you know, when you're only playing these top 4 strings, it's okay to kind of look down like that, just to make sure you're getting them right. You know, don't feel like you have to kind of be all like this. I can play, right? So just, you know, look down if you need to. Make sure you're playing the strings, the right strings, and that's fine. Now, why don't you check out some of my other videos in this 1 chord a day series. Thank you so much for joining me today. Happy strumming. Hey, thanks for dropping by. What you're watching right now is a collection of helpful videos from my beginner guitar YouTube channel. If you want more, there are links down below. Thanks for watching. Happy strumming. Strumming your way to your favorite campfire songs? Well, it's easier than you think. This beginner-friendly series of a chord a day lessons is going to teach you exactly that. 1 chord every day. So I'm going to show you the finger positions, the basic strumming pattern of the A minor guitar chord. Now, a minor chord is a sad chord compared to a major chord. And the A minor chord, and you can see the pattern in the diagram there, uses 3 fingers. We're going to use our first finger, second finger, and third finger for this. And the finger placement for this is the first finger goes on the first fret. Frets are the metal bars. The first fret of the B string, or the second string. The third finger goes on the second fret of the G string, or the third string. And the second finger goes on the second fret as well, but this time of the D string, or the 4th string. And you're going to play the top 5 strings. The first string, second string, third string, 4th string, and 5th string. The string numbering on the guitar is exactly that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, not the other way around. And if you look at the diagram, you'll see an X on this string here. You'll see it just above there in the diagram. And what that means is don't play that string. And in order not to play that string, that's where your thumb comes in, and it's going to lightly touch that string, that low E string. Don't push it down, because you'll get a note, and also it could be quite painful after a few minutes. So just touch it gently like that, so you get that muffled, muted sound. And as I said, you're going to play the top 5 strings. So using a plectrum or your fingers, it makes no difference. Really, for the moment, when you're just starting out, just play those 5 strings and you get a beautiful minor, sad, melancholic sound. It's a beautiful guitar chord and one that I particularly like. And just for a strumming pattern, just play down strokes, okay? So, you know, when you're starting out, you know, you're worrying about this hand, you're worrying about this hand. So that's why I always kind of recommend you use down strokes. So something like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a nice sound. It's a simple pattern that you can use. And again, just a kind of a little note of comparing the chart with the positions that your fingers are actually in. And you'll notice that if you look at the second finger and the third finger, now if you're playing this right, which you will do, there is a bit of daylight between the second finger and the fret. Whereas when you look at the chord chart, you'll see that the fingers look like they're exactly in the same position, but that's not really possible. This is just a rough guide. So try and keep them as close as you can to the fretboard, not the fretboard, to the fret, but don't put your fingers on the fret, because if you put your finger on your fret, you get this horrible sound. The first finger and the third finger are just behind the fret, but the second finger is, as you see, there's a small gap there between the finger and the fret, but it'll still sound good. Now, why don't you check out these other videos in this A Chord a Day series, and thank you so much for joining me today. Happy strumming. Hey, thanks for dropping by. What you're watching right now is a collection of helpful videos from my beginner guitar YouTube channel. If you want more, there are links down below. Thanks for watching. Happy strumming. Want to play your favourite songs on the guitar? Well, it's easier than you think. Join me for a daily guitar lesson where I'm going to show you 1 chord a day, and we'll learn the basic chord formation, a little strumming pattern. I'll even show you a alternative version of the chord if the first version is a little difficult. So go from 0 to hero in no time. So let's look at the chord, and the first chord we're looking at is E minor. E minor. Now E minor is one of those sad chords, and if you look at the diagram here, you'll see that you need 2 fingers, the second finger and the third finger. Now your third finger goes on the second fret. Now the fret is this metal bar here. It goes on the second fret of the 4th string. This is the D string. And your third finger goes on the 2nd fret as well, but of the A string. This is the A string or the 5th string. And for this chord, you're going to strum all 6 strings. Just like that, all 6 strings. And a very simple way that you can strum this chord is by playing 4 down strums. So like this, let me demonstrate. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Just something simple like that to get you started. Now, if you find this a little bit difficult, the other alternative is, instead of using your second and third finger, is to use your first and second piece. And you'll put them on the same fret, which is the 2nd fret, but your second finger will go on the D string or the 4th string, and your first finger will go on the A string, the 5th string, at the 2nd fret. And you'll play again exactly the same thing, all 6 strings. Now you'll notice that I'm just using my fingers to strum, or you could use your thumb, it doesn't matter, just to get you started. Now, one of the things here though, when I play the E minor chord like this, or the E minor chord like this, now I prefer this way, the first way I showed you. And something you want to take note of is your thumb and your wrist position. And when I'm playing it like this here, my hand position, my wrist position is quite straight. You know, my hand is quite straight. It's not bent like this or anything like that. It's quite straight, my whole arm and my wrist. And this part of my thumb is right behind the guitar, and it's pressing on the curved part of the guitar. Now, if I'm using this version of the chord, then my wrist position is very slightly bent, a little bit more so than with the first position. But this, I'm not using this part here, I'm using this part here at the back of the guitar. So I've got that bit there playing on the curved part of the guitar. Now practice that. Just do your simple down strums there like that. And you know, try both versions, see which one feels comfortable for you. And one thing you might notice is that after a few minutes, your fingers might start to tingle, might feel a little bit of pain, but that's really normal. And with time, with practice, you won't feel it at all. Now, why don't you check out other videos in this series here? And thanks for joining me today. Happy strumming. Hey, thanks for dropping by. What you're watching right now is a collection of helpful videos from my beginner guitar YouTube channel. If you want more, there are links down below. Thanks for watching. Happy strumming. Now forget complicated guitar chords. We're all about making how to play the guitar easy. So in this beginner guitar tutorial, I'm going to show you the finger placement, a basic strumming pattern, and offer an alternative version to the G major chord so that you can unlock the joy of playing the guitar. So the G major chord uses 3 fingers, right? And we're going to look at the first version with the 4th finger, 3rd finger and the 2nd finger. The diagram is on the screen and you can see that the 4th finger is playing the 3rd fret. The frets are going, these metal bars that go across. It's on the 3rd fret of the E string or the 1st string. Then there's a bit of a gap and the 2nd finger is playing the 2nd fret of the A string or the 5th string. And then the 3rd finger is playing the 3rd fret of the 6th string, the low E string. So these two here, 4th finger and 3rd finger, are playing the E strings at the same frets, the 3rd fret. And you'll have a chord sounding like this. And for this chord, you play all 6 strings. And you've got a lovely, bright, clear sound. Now, an alternative version is, instead of using 4-3-2, we're going to use 3-2-1. And we're going to put the 3rd finger on the 3rd fret of the high E string, the 1st string. The 1st finger is going to go on the 2nd fret of the A string or the 5th string, and this 2nd finger, 3rd fret of the G string, or it's not the G string, the E string, the 6th string. And again, you'll play all the strings. Now, that was a version that I started out with, and it's a good way to play it, and many guitar players do it. My version, the version I prefer, I should say, is the first version using the 4th third and second strings. Now of course they sound exactly the same. I think the only difference really in terms of the hand position is that when you're playing, if I play this one here, I find that my hand is gripping the guitar a little bit more closely, and I've got this part of my thumb on the kind of the top part here of, if I can show you that, on that part here of the curved part of the guitar. So my thumb is there. Whereas if I play this one here, my thumb has kind of moved back a little bit. All right, just back a little bit, so it's more this part here on that curved part of the guitar. Maybe it's because my fingers are short. I'm not really sure. So it's two versions, and great chord. I love this chord, but there's also a much easier version. So if this version or this version here is too much of a stretch for you, the way you can do this is by playing the third finger only, but only playing the top 4 strings. And this is the version of the G major chord that I first learned with. And so you do need to be a little bit more careful about the strings that you're playing. So when I learned this, one thing I did when I was using this version here was to have the thumb coming over a little bit and dampening those 2 low strings, the A string, the 5th string, and the 6th string, the E string. But you want to make sure that you're only pressing the string lightly, you're not holding down the thumb. And that way you've got that chord and you're able to play this G chord in a simple way. And for a strumming pattern, one thing that you can do, and I recommend this with, when you're just starting out, keep it simple. Don't overcomplicate it. So you're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I'm just using my thumb, and because that's actually how I started many years ago. I was just using the thumb. I didn't have a plectrum, and I either used my thumb or I used my first finger just to play like this. And you can hear the difference in the sound. Because with the first finger, you're really using that kind of the nail of the finger. And the thumb, you're obviously just using this bit here. The thing is though, if you do use your thumb for a long period of time, and before buying a plectrum, your thumb will get a little bit of it'll develop a little callus over time. And the same thing with this hand here. When you start playing and you're holding down the strings on the guitar for a while, you do get a bit sore. It's natural. You'll get used to it and you'll develop the necessary calluses for these fingers, and you'll end up just having little grooves like this here. I wonder if you can see that. Now why don't you check out the other videos in this series of lessons, and thank you so much for joining me today. Happy strumming. Hey, thanks for dropping by. What you're watching right now is a collection of helpful videos from my beginner guitar YouTube channel. If you want more, there are links down below. Thanks for watching. Happy strumming. Hi, have you got a few minutes to learn a brand new guitar chord? Well, that's all it takes really to learn the guitar. A few minutes a day. So we're going to look at the E major chord in this beginner friendly series of videos. You can see the diagram up there, and what we need are 3 fingers: first finger, second finger, and the third finger. And the first finger goes on the 1st fret. Now the frets are the metal bars that go across the guitar. So first finger on the 1st fret of the G string, the 3rd string on your guitar. Your third finger goes on the second finger, the second fret of the D string or the fourth string, and your second finger goes on the second fret of the A string or the fifth string. And for this chord, you're going to strum all 6 strings. And then you have that bright major sounding chord. So major chords are these happy sounding chords. Just one thing to mention though, when you look at the chord diagram and you look at your fingers. Now in the chord diagram, the fingers look like they're exactly in the same position, but they're not quite. And if we focus just on the second and third finger, what you'll see is that the third finger is pretty close to the fret, but the second finger, well, there's a little bit of daylight between the finger and the fret. So it's not exactly in the same position. It's not like that, because first of all, that's just way too difficult and it's just not going to work. And so you know, there's a little bit of daylight there, but the first finger is actually very close to the fret as well. So the first finger and the third finger are pretty close to the frets, and the second finger, as I said, there's a little bit of a gap, a little bit of a daylight between the finger and the fretboard. Now the rest of your hand, if we look at the thumb, now this part of the thumb here, when I play, is on the curved part of the back of the guitar, and I've got this part of my hand just here, just there, and I'm applying a little bit of pressure in order to help me hold the strings down, but not too much pressure. You don't want your fingers turning white or anything like that. Now a very simple strumming pattern that you can use for this chord is just downstrokes, down strums. If you're using a plectrum, great. If you're not, like me, then you can just use your first finger to do this, or you can even use your thumb to strum the chord. And just strumming a 1, 2, 3, 4 pattern is great when you're starting out. So something like this: 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And remember that you're strumming all 6 strings. Check out the other videos in this series, and thank you so much for joining me today. Happy strumming. Hey, thanks for dropping by. What you're watching right now is a collection of helpful videos from my beginner guitar YouTube channel. If you want more, there are links down below. Thanks for watching. Happy strumming. Feeling overwhelmed by complex guitar chords? Well, let's simplify things. And this daily series breaks down one beginner-friendly chord at a time. So let me show you the finger placement, a basic strumming pattern, and even an alternative version of the A major guitar chord. Now, on the screen right now, you can see the diagram of the A major chord, and you're using the 4th finger, 3rd finger, and 2nd finger to play this. And the 4th finger goes on the 2nd fret of the B string, the 2nd string. The 3rd finger goes on the 2nd fret again of the G string, or the 3rd string, and the 2nd finger, 2nd fret, but this time on the D string or the 4th string. One thing you may have just noticed is that the strings, the numbering, is going kind of this way. So this is actually the 1st string, the 2nd string, 3rd string, 4th string, 5th string, and this low one here is the 6th string. So we go that way rather than this way. And so, as I said, 4th finger, 3rd finger, 2nd finger. And if you look at the diagram and compare the positions of the fingers on there with what you're actually playing, you'll notice that the fingers are not exactly all in the same position, because you've got that 4th finger which is very close to the fret. Remember, close but not actually on the fret. And then the second finger. Now, but the second finger, there's a little bit of daylight between the fret and the finger, and then even more daylight between the fret and the finger when you're playing the second fret with the second finger on this D string, because there's no way you can do it like that, like on the guitar diagram. It doesn't happen. So, as I say, the diagram is a very basic guide, but in reality, it's not exactly the same. So don't worry too much if your fingers don't look like that. Now with this chord, you're going to play the top 5 strings. All right, the top 5 strings, which is the first, second, third, fourth, and fifth. And you're probably wondering why there is an X on the chord diagram. Now the X on the chord diagram means don't play that string. So you're not going to be playing the 6th string. So maybe you're wondering, how on earth do I not play the string? And that's where your thumb comes in. Now your thumb is going to very lightly touch the low E string. So it dampens the string like this. Right? Don't press too hard. Just touch it gently like that. And that way, if you're using a plectrum, then you can strum everything because you won't have anything there. I'm just using my thumb for the moment, and which gives me a little bit more control over which strings I'm playing. And I've got that nice clear sound, that nice bright major chord sound. So major chords are kind of these happy chords, bright chords. And so a simple strumming pattern that you can use is just playing downstrokes. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And maybe after holding these strings down for a while, maybe your fingers are getting a bit sore, but that's normal, very, very normal. So give it a little bit of time, you know, take a break every few minutes. You know, you don't need to spend half an hour holding down the chord. All right, so if you start to feel a little bit of pain, stop for a second and then come back to it. But don't give up. Now the alternative, instead of using these 3 fingers here, you're now going to use these 3. So you can use 3rd finger, 2nd finger, and 1st finger. The 3rd finger is on the 2nd fret of the B string or the 2nd string. 2nd finger is on the 3rd string, the G string, and the 1st finger is on the same fret, the 2nd fret of the D string or the 4th string. You will see that your fingers are in a kind of a diagonal position. Try to keep them as close as you can. Keep your fingers as bunched up together as much as you can. And again, you will play the same 5 strings. And you'll use your thumb to dampen that string, the low E string. Now, I favor this version here because this, I think it's because my fingers, my hands are a little bit chubby. And so when I use the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd finger, I have to be very, very careful about not touching the 6th string, the 1st string, with this part of my hand. This kind of, it's like a way too chubby part there. But when I use the 4th, 3rd, and 2nd finger, I have no problems at all. But of course, you choose whichever version of the chord you prefer playing. Why don't you check out the other videos in this series of beginner-friendly A Chord a Day lessons. And thank you so much for joining me today. Happy strumming. Hey, thanks for dropping by. What you're watching right now is a collection of helpful videos from my beginner guitar YouTube channel. If you want more, there are links down below. Thanks for watching. Happy strumming. Are you ready to conquer the guitar fretboard? Challenge accepted. Now join me for a daily guitar lesson where I unlock a new guitar chord every day. Now today you're going to learn how to form and how to strum the D major chord. Now, do you think you can learn a guitar chord every day? Let's find out. Now the D major chord uses 3 fingers. We're going to use the first finger, second finger and the third finger. And the guitar chord diagram is right there to give you a little extra help. And so where are we going to put these? The first finger is going to go on the 2nd fret of the G string or the 3rd finger. Now the second finger is also going to go on the 2nd fret, but of the E string, the 1st string, the thinnest string. Now this finger here, the 3rd finger, goes on the 3rd fret of the B string, the 2nd string. And this is the finger that usually causes a little bit of a problem, because this finger here sometimes touches the E string and means that the chord doesn't ring out properly. So when you play this chord, when you form this chord, you want to make sure that your finger is arched nicely so that it is not touching the 1st string. That was one of the problems I had back in the day, and it's something that you want to try to avoid, and something that will give you this nice bright clear sound. Now when you play this chord, this is a 4-string chord, meaning you only play the 1st, 2nd, 3rd and 4th string. And you can see by the diagram there that there are 2 X's, and the X's mean that you shouldn't play those strings. Now I'm using just my thumb to strum the chord. You can use a plectrum if you have one, or you can also use your 1st finger as well. But I like using my thumb because I find, you know, this is how I learned when I started. I found that it helped me have more control over what I was playing. Because as I said, you don't want to really be playing these 2 low strings. And in fact, what you're going to do with the low E string is you're going to use your thumb to dampen that string, and also to dampen the A string just by touching. So your thumb is kind of coming over a little bit, and you've got this part of your hand which is on the curved part of the back of the guitar here. And that will help you to not only dampen the strings, but it will also help to give you a bit of strength to hold the chord down. Now, if you're just strumming, all you need to do is just do something simple like down strums. All right, so 1, 2, 3, 4. Down, 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 down. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's a very basic strumming pattern. I think it's a nice way to begin when you start out playing, when you start learning guitar chords, because you know your brain is thinking about what to do here. So you want to kind of keep this bit simple, not to kind of stress you out a little bit. And of course, when you are strumming, one thing you want to do is to keep the rhythm constant. Don't speed up, don't slow down. Just keep it at the same tempo all the way through. Why don't you check out the other videos in this A Chord a Day series, and thank you so much for joining me today. Happy strumming. Hey, thanks for dropping by. What you're watching right now is a collection of helpful videos from my beginner guitar YouTube channel. If you want more, there are links down below. Thanks for watching. Happy strumming. Picking up a guitar for the first time? Well, don't fret. Now you'll be strumming your way to guitar success in no time. And this daily series of beginner guitar lessons teaches you a new chord every day. Now you'll have easy to follow lessons, there's a basic strumming pattern, and even simpler options of playing the chord if your fingers get a little bit tangled. So there's no experience needed, just a desire to learn to play the guitar. So we're looking at the D minor chord today. Now minor chords are those sad chords, and if you look at the diagram you'll see that you need 3 fingers. You're going to need your 4th finger, whoops, second finger and first finger. So let's start with the fourth finger. And the fourth finger goes on the third fret. Now the frets are the metal bars going across the guitar. Third fret of the B string. The B string is this one here, the second string. Now your second finger is going to go on the second fret of the G string, the third string. And the first finger, your first finger, is going to go on the first fret of the high E string, the first string, the thinnest string. And it's a 4-string chord, so what you're going to do is play just the top 4 strings, just those 4 strings, and you can hear that nice minor sound, that sad sound. And if you look at the diagram, you'll see that there is an X over the low E string and the A string. Basically that means don't play those 2 strings. And in order to not play those strings, what you want to do is try and get your thumb around here. So this part of the thumb, that little crease there, that bendy part there, is actually on that part of the guitar here, this kind of the beginning of the flat part of the fretboard, and it's bending over and just touching these 2 strings here. And as I say, it's just touching, it's not pushing down, it's not playing the strings, it's just touching in order to give you a nice muffled, muted sound so that you can't hear it as the strings ring out. Now, an alternative way to play this, if you find this a little difficult, is to use your third finger here. As I said, you've got this third finger now on the third fret of the B string. Now, the reason why I prefer using my little finger is because, well, to be honest, this finger is a little bit chubby, it's a little bit fleshy, a little bit podgy, and what often happens is that if I'm not careful, if I'm not arching the finger enough, it often dampens or makes this first string buzz, right? And that's if I'm not being careful. So I am really kind of focusing right now to make sure that I'm getting it right. But with this finger here, because it's smaller, it's not as chubby, it doesn't have the same problem. I find it a lot easier to arch that finger. And you know, you see that arch there. I think that's a really good way to have this chord, to use that finger on this chord. And whether you use this version with the third finger or with the fourth finger, you want to make sure though that the strings ring out nicely. And a simple strumming pattern that you can use, and I always recommend it, is to just play downstrokes, because forming new guitar chords is pretty difficult when you're starting out, because you need time to develop the muscle memory. And that's what will happen if you practice every day. You'll develop a good bit of muscle memory. So when you're strumming, keep it simple, just play downstrokes. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And so, as I say, whether you use the third finger or the fourth finger, and the sound is obviously the same, but you know, play whichever one you feel comfortable with. Now, why don't you check out these other videos in this A Chord a Day series, and thank you so much for joining me today. Happy strumming.